Hey Chemsters, this is Mrs. Vanderlei bringing you another Chemster video. And what we're going to do today is find the mass of a mole of a compound. So let's kind of like go back and see what we've already talked about. So we've already talked about what a mole is. A mole is a counting number. Like a dozen is 12, okay? Like a pair is usually 2. Well, a mole is 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. That's what a mole is. Well, it's 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd what? Well, of anything. Now, does it make sense to make a mole of pennies? No. How about a mole of rice grains? No. All right, those are just huge, huge, huge amounts, unrealistic, okay? But we can find the 6.22 times 10 to the 23rd number of really, really small things like atoms. And if I have a huge number for a really, really small thing, then I can actually hold it in my hands, okay? So that's our goal here, okay, is to find the molar mass of compounds. We found them earlier of elements. That was actually on our factor labeling sheet. So we saw that 1 mole of aluminum weighed 26.98 grams. So we saw that 1 mole of iron weighed 55.85. That was on that front page there. So what do I do about compounds? So this might be a really good time to pause, make sure you have a periodic table in front of you, and make sure you have a calculator, okay? So here we go. It says determine the mass of 1 mole of CO. Well, what is CO? That's carbon monoxide, isn't it? Which has 1 carbon and 1 oxygen. So now we need to know what the mass of 1 carbon and 1 oxygen is. Well, look on your periodic table. What is the mass of carbon? Okay, what is that decimal number? Well, it's 12.01. So 1 atom of carbon would weigh 12.01 AMUs. I'm not worried about those anymore. 1 mole of carbon weighs 12.01 grams, okay? What about oxygen? Will you find oxygen on your periodic table? Well, hopefully you got 16, okay? So we have 1 oxygen, so there's no subscripts, all right? And we're gonna add 1/16. So if I go back and I look at this, okay? What do? I find the number of grams of each element. I just did that, right? I found how much carbon has. I found out how much oxygen has in the compound. Then what am I going to do? Well, that's kind of funky. I'm going to add the masses of the elements together, okay? So now you have a calculator. You may or may not need a calculator. And you should get 28.01. But what is super duper important? Think about what we did to start this whole unit. We talk about factor labeling. We need units, all right? So what's the unit of molar mass is grams per mole, all right? Don't be lazy. Make sure you write down the units when you find molar mass, all right? It's grams per mole, okay? Let's see what the next one is. All right, well, the next one is CO2, carbon dioxide. So what do we have? What does that formula tell me? I have 1 carbon and 2 oxygens. How do I know it's 2 oxygens? I looked at that right there. That is a subscript of a 2. Right, so now do you have your periodic table? I hope so. So what's the molar mass of 1 carbon? Well, hopefully you got it's 12.01. Now what do I do? Well, I don't have 1 oxygen like I did right here. I have, look at the subscript, 2 oxygens. So I'm going to add 2 of these, so 2 times 16. And when I put this, in my calculator, and I calculate, what'd you get? I should hear you typing away. Oh, I got 44.01. And what's my unit? What I tell you not to be? Don't be lazy. All right, I got, grams per mole. Okay. All right, let's try the next one. A little bit different. You have to figure out the formula. So what do you think the first thing you ought to do in letter C? Well, obviously you need to write down the formula. Can you do that right now? All right, I got, whoopsie, come here, NaOH. So look at that formula, all right? What's in that formula? I have 1 sodium, 1 oxygen, and 1 hydrogen, correct? I have no subscripts here. I didn't have to crisscross, did I? So what does that mean? I have 1 sodium. Hey, look up sodium on your periodic table. What do you get for that one? Did you get 22.99? Hopefully you're looking. So once you get used to this, it's going to come a lot easier, all right? You don't have to look for some of these because you're going to do carbon and oxygen so much, you're going to know exactly what it is. All right, what's oxygen? You've done it a couple times. What did you find oxygen was? Hopefully you got 16. And what about hydrogen? Look up hydrogen. You're probably going to get to memorize that one too. I got 1.01. So notice I have 1 sodium, 1 oxygen, 1 hydrogen. I add them all up, and what do you get? Well, hopefully you got 40. And again, what's my unit? Grams per mole. Okay, so that means 1 mole of sodium weighs 40 grams. Okay, let's try water. All right, so you're probably wondering at this point is, do you really have to include this step right here every time? It's not a bad thing, but I think once you really get the groove of this, you probably don't need to. I would say this line right here is the minimum of what you should write down to show your work, all right? If you just put an answer down and I don't see how you got it, and if it's wrong, I can't do a thing for you. All right, but keep in mind, what does this number out in front means? It means I have 1 sodium in the formula. What does this 1 here mean? I have 1 oxygen in the formula, and this 1 means I have 1 hydrogen. But if you would like to just do this line from here on out, I'm okay with that, okay? So in this formula, how many hydrogens do you have? Well, how many do you have? Hopefully you got 2, right? And then what? I'm going to add how many oxygens I have. How many oxygens do I have? I got 1, okay? And so when you do that, what do you get? Well, go ahead and add this up in your calculator, and what do you get? You got 18.02. Hey, what's my unit? Grams per mole, okay? Why don't you take, a little bit of time and do letter E. By the way, that is sucrose. That's the yummy sugar that you put in your Frosted Flakes cereal, all right? So that's your table sugar. Go ahead and find the molar mass of sucrose. Pause this if you need to, which you probably will, and see what you get. All right, welcome back. Well, what did you get? Well, how many carbons do you have? 12, and each carbon was 12.01. How many hydrogens did you get? Hopefully you got 22 at 1.01. How many oxygens did you get? 11 at 16.00 each time. And now what? Add them all up, and I got 342.34. And once again, what is your unit? Grams per mole. Okay, good. Let's see the next one. What is different about letter F? Okay, what do you notice in letter F that I didn't see before? And it's the parentheses, okay? So how do I deal with the parentheses, okay? Well, you distribute. So remember how we distributed that before? Come on. All right, there we go. I got 2 oxygens here and I have 2 hydrogens here. Okay, remember how we did that? So it's the same thing. When we're balancing equations, we'd have to distribute. Well, you're going to distribute again. So how many magnesiums do you have? It's not in the parenthesis, so you only have 1 magnesium, don't you? How many oxygens do you have? Well, if you distribute, you have 2 of them, don't you? And how many hydrogens do you have? Well, if you distribute, you got 2 of them as well. So when you add these all up, what do you get? 53 or 58.33. Again, what's my unit? Grams per mole. Okay, hopefully that wasn't too bad. Well, what about aluminum sulfate? Why don't you pause this, I mean it, and see how you do. Okay, go ahead and pause this. So do you recognize aluminum sulfate as an ionic compound? If it's ionic, you must know their charges. So aluminum, hopefully you knew, is +3, and sulfate is -2. Hey, do the charges cancel? No. So you have to crisscross, don't you? So this is what I got for aluminum sulfate, all right? So again, you have parentheses. So watch, be very, very careful. Well, how many aluminums do you have? It looks like I only got 2 of them, right? It's not in the parentheses, so you don't distribute. It's just 2. So that is 2 times 26.98. How many sulfurs do you have? Be very careful. What are you going to do? You're going to distribute. So I have 3 sulfurs, don't I? All right, and each sulfur was 32.07. All right, now what? How many oxygens do I have? Well, what's 3 times 4? Ooh, that's a big number. You end up with 12. So when you add them all up, all right, what do you get? 342.17. And again, what unit do I put in this? Grams per mole. So that is the end of this page, all right? So what I would like you to do now is page 2 in your homework packet. The title says gram formula mass. So you're going to do this exact same thing. You're going to find the molar mass and name them of those, looks like 15 substances, okay? So be very careful. Make sure you look at your parentheses. You know what to do with those. And this should go pretty well, I hope, all right? So, hey, folks, don't wait to be great. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.